My head is such a weird shape, bro. Like, they always look too small, but if I get the ones that fit right, they look huge. This right here? Hey, what's up? What's up, students? So good to see that you guys are tuned in. It's been a long time since we've made one of these videos. And what better time to kick off Best Night of the Week recap videos than with a brand new series. And here we are with the series called I Have Questions. I have questions, you have questions, but for some reason, sometimes church is the place where we don't feel confident asking our questions about God. We think sometimes it's going to make us look like we don't have a deep knowledge of God. It's going to make people think maybe that we have a shallow faith. Maybe it even makes people think that we don't even have a relationship with God. But I'm under the conviction that if we ask the right questions and genuinely seek the truth, our questions can be a gateway into a deeper knowledge of God, a much richer faith, and a much more vibrant relationship with God. And that's what this series is all about. It's about asking the hard questions that are going to lead us into a deeper knowledge of God, a much richer faith in God, and a much more vibrant relationship with God. And so we're going to start off today by asking our first question of the series, which is life with Jesus really better, right? We hear all kinds of things in life. If you want to be fulfilled, then you got to get a good job. If you want to be fulfilled in life, you got to have a big family. If you want to get fulfilled in life, you got to get paid and retire early, buy a yacht and float the seven seas. I don't know. We just hear all kinds of crazy things. But one thing we hear consistently throughout the church is life with Jesus actually better? The reality is we start to wrestle with that question because we also rub up against the teachings of Jesus where he says, if you're going to follow me, you have to deny yourself. If you're going to follow me, you have to love your enemies. If you're going to follow me, you will be persecuted, right? It starts to seem like those things don't really add up to the best kind of life, but I am under the firm conviction that life with Jesus is actually better. And so here's 3 reasons, just real quick, why I believe life with Jesus is actually better. For one, John 10:10, we see Jesus actually laid out himself. He says, it's the thief that comes to steal, kill, and destroy. But I have come so that you may have life and have it in abundance. The thief, he's talking about the enemy. He's talking about Satan. He's talking about his minions. He's talking about the whole goal of the enemy is to trip us up, but not just trip us up. He wants to kick us while we're down and ultimately kill us while we're down. But Jesus says in response to that, really what Jesus' goal is coming here is that we would have life and have it abundantly. And what I think that really kind of lays out for us is that we can look to God and we can find a better life in Jesus because, number one, his love is so powerful. Now check this out. I'll keep this pretty quick, but I read that there's this study going on in Harvard that's at this point 75 years long, and they're just analyzing people. They're asking these questions. They've been doing this for such a long time, but the basic question is, what keeps you happy and healthy? Right? What keeps you happy and healthy? You could probably think of some things that you think would keep you happy and healthy through the rest of your life. And what they have found is that many young people think that it's going to be fame that keeps them happy and healthy. It's going to be wealth that keeps them happy and healthy, and it's going to be success that keeps them happy and healthy. But the reality is they're finding in all of these studies that it's actually none of those things. One of the biggest and most important parts of a happy and healthy life is love. That we look for these things in our relationships. We look at them in our friendships and just the meaningful relationships that we have that give us meaning and value. But what I think is so much more important to look at when it comes to love is not just the relationships that we have with other people, but first and foremost, the relationship we have with God. And the reason I say that is because 1 John 4:8 actually tells us that love is not just a feeling, but love is a person. And not just a person, it's actually God. And obviously, whenever I say person, I don't mean God is like one of you and me, but God in and of himself is the perfect definition, standard, and definer of all things love. And so to Christians, right, what we understand is that true love is really going to flow out of God's love. And when we look to Jesus, we actually see this come up a little bit better. We see that love means being willing to sacrifice for others. In fact, the Bible even tells us that we know what love is because Jesus laid down his life for us. right? So all of us know that we have this intrinsic desire, this basic need in our lives to be known and to be loved. And there's nowhere else, I believe, in this world that you will find the fulfillment of what your soul longs for love. You won't find it anywhere else but God. So is life with Jesus actually better? Absolutely, because his love is that much more powerful. The second thing I'd say is this. Another reason that life with Jesus is so much better is because his mission is too good. Now, it seems kind of weird, right? When you think about why life would be better and you talk about a mission, I'm not talking about Tom Cruise, Mission Impossible, or any of that kind of stuff. What I'm talking about is the fact that every single one of us wants to make a difference. In fact, one of the things that I see a lot about your generation is that your generation is so motivated to make a difference in this world. There has not been a generation like yours in a long time that just has this deep desire to make a difference in our world. And one of the things I think is so important, right, is we fight for change and we fight for justice. What we need to understand is we also need to fight from the right foundation. And when I look at 1 Peter chapter 1, verses 3 through 6, I actually see everything that we're looking for in our desire to make a difference. We need to look to Jesus because his mission is that much better. What we see in these verses is, blessed be the God and Father of our Lord Jesus Christ. Because of his great mercy, he has given us new birth into a living hope through the resurrection of Jesus Christ from the dead, and into an inheritance that is imperishable, undefiled, and unfading, kept in heaven for you. You are being guarded by God's power through faith for a salvation that is ready to be revealed for the last time. You rejoice in this, even though now for a short time, if necessary, you suffer grief in various trials. So the reality, right, is even though life with Jesus may mean persecution, what we also understand is that persecution is going to be limited. We have something at our disposal that goes so much longer and so much bigger than what we experience in this life. And ultimately, the reason we can have those things is because Jesus is our hope. And Jesus isn't just my hope and your hope. What we actually see through these passages, especially in verses 3 and 4, is that Jesus is the hope of the world. The world needs to change. I don't think any one of us look at the world and just say, you know what, it couldn't get any better than this. We know that there's a lot that needs to change, but the world can never truly change if people don't know Jesus. So Jesus gives us some instructions on how to live in a way that will truly change the world. Really, what he's saying is if you will live like this, you'll be effective in the mission. One, you need to love your neighbor as yourself. We're a very selfish people, but we need to learn to love our neighbor as ourselves, just like Jesus loved us. On top of that, we need to learn to serve selflessly. Even Jesus came to serve and not be served. In fact, what he would do is he would look at the people he came to serve, the people who would ultimately spit in his face and crucify him, and he elevated them above himself. He didn't count himself as more important than them, but he served them in a way that would build them up. And then third, and this one's so important, it's not enough for us to just love people well and serve people well. We need to love, serve, and preach well. And before you get freaked out about that, I'm not saying that you need to stand up and give a sermon next week, but ultimately each one of us has been entrusted the message that will change the world. You have been given the message of the gospel, and as people hear this, God does what only God can do, and he changes their hearts, changes their minds, changes their souls, changes their trajectory, their eternities. Jesus does the saving, but people won't know the hope of Jesus if God's people won't share it. You have been given a message that will change the world. Why is life with Jesus better? Because his mission is too good. Life with Jesus really is better because he gives you not just a challenge to make a difference, but he gives you purpose, and then he equips you to make the real difference. And that leads us to our last thing, and that is that his way is better. Now, one of the things that's so intriguing to me, I'm an athlete, or recovering athlete or old athlete. Really what that means is I get injured really quick, okay? And so I need to get some training on my body. I need to go to physical therapy. And physical therapy is such a weird thing, right? Because physical therapy is supposed to help me, but it's painful, right? It is challenging, and it could cost a lot of money. It costs a lot of my resources. And what I have seen is that there are certain people who will avoid physical therapy because it's painful, because it's challenging, and because it's costly. And instead what they choose to do is just take the painkillers, right? They take the things that's supposed to like alleviate the pain and they just numb the pain, but ultimately painkillers don't fix the problem, do they? They don't. They just kind of numb everything. And they choose instead to take these painkillers to numb the pain, but painkillers are incapable of actually attacking the problem and fixing it. Physical therapy may be painful, it may be challenging, it may be costly, but, and hear me in this, it's effective. It is meant to take what is broken and fix it and enable you to live a better and fuller life. What I look at in this passage, John 10:10, is when Jesus says that it's the thief who comes to steal, kill, and destroy. What he's reminding us is that the thief is a threat, but Jesus isn't a threat. The thief is the threat, but Jesus comes and he gives. He says, I come so that you can have something. This thing is at your disposal. It's the enemy's job to show up and take and take and take and take and ultimately kill you off to destroy you. But I think what happens for some of us sometimes is we look at the life Jesus offers us, we freak out, and we instead choose to go to the painkillers, the things that just ultimately numb us away from the actual problem, right? Like painkillers, some of us look to sin to just numb our pain, thinking it'll heal us and make us feel more fulfilled, but in reality, it's just hindering us from living our life to the fullest. And so when Jesus says, I have come so that you may have and have life and have it in abundance, he's really saying, I have come so that I can enable you to live a better and fuller life. Listen, students, Jesus is so much more than a painkiller. Jesus enables you for right living. His way may hurt from time to time. It may cause pain. It may be challenging, and it'll definitely cost you. Jesus' own words say that it's costly to follow him. But we can always understand that life with Jesus is better because life with Jesus is truly good for you. Jesus actually enables you to live well. I know that this could be challenging, but I know that what I want to encourage you to do is as you kind of take these things is don't ask these questions in isolation, right? It's important to get in the context of community, to get in your church. And so I'd encourage you is to wrestle with these questions in a group of people who are in pursuit of Jesus to help you really see these things, to talk about what your next steps might be. If you haven't given your life to Jesus, do that, and then let somebody know. If you need to let me know, let me know. I'd love to hear that. You can email me at colin.roadtrammel@bt.church, and I'll celebrate with you, and we can talk about what other next steps are there. But here's the reality, right? If I could kind of boil it all down to one thing for this whole series, is I know that we all have questions. And sometimes the church doesn't feel like it's the best place to ask those questions. And I want to do everything I can to put that sort of preconceived notion off to the side. I want to open up our church to be a place where we can ask honest questions in pursuit of a real, true answer, because I believe truth has a name and his name is Jesus. If we honestly seek these things, I believe that we're going to come face to face with the Savior of our lives and the sealer of our eternities. Students, I believe that the best things can happen whenever we open ourselves up to have Jesus answer our questions. Students, you guys be blessed. I'll see you next week.